Hey there, folks. I am the Exalted One, and in this short little mod spotlight series, we are going to learn how to build complex structures like castles using the Builder. I'm a big fan of the Builder. Um, this is a creative world, obviously, and full disclosure, I am using a texture pack. Uh, it's called John Smith Legacy, and that was kind of what prompted me to want to build a castle. I saw this texture pack originally in 1.7 vanilla, and to be honest with you, back in 1.7 vanilla, the John Legacy texture pack, the stone bricks were a little different colored. The texture was about the same, but the color was different, and I wish they would have kept that color. It was gray in the original, and it's kind of this, light brown color in this one. In the updated versions, I wish they would have kept the old color, but anyway. So yeah, I used the builder to build this entire structure, and I used the builder to build this entire structure. And if you'll notice back here, I have basically a block palette. I wanted to use uh, a randomized pattern, so I, built a couple of structures, trying to figure out the ratio to use. So that's where I recommend you start if you want a randomized pattern. In this one, you'll notice that there's a lot more blocks compared to the stone brick, and in this one there's a lot less. So what I figured out is I liked this one better, so I went with this. This is about an 8-to-1 ratio of stone bricks to andesite, polished, and 8-to-1 also on regular andesite. It's also about 8-to-1 on cobblestone, and it's about 16-to-1 on the mossy stone bricks. So that was my first step. I also, the reason why I came into this creative world was to decide what kind of, you know, what was the theme behind the structure I wanted to build. So I started with this one. Let me turn it back to day. I started with this one, and I do like this overall look, but I decided that I wanted to get away from a more conventional castle look, so I started playing around with a different overall look. And so I, just kind of messed around for a little bit, and I came up with this one. And eventually, this is what I decided on to use in my own playthrough. If you look here, this is, the basic, the foundational structure that I'm gonna, that I put in my playthrough. And if you notice, you know, I was able to put this all together because this isn't a typical shape in the builder. If we look at the typical shapes, let's take this card back out. If you look at the typical shapes, that's a compositional card. Yeah, get a regular one. Wait, I think I have a blank one. If you look at the typical shapes, make it a little bigger. You got, your typical box, top dome, bottom dome, sphere, cylinder, cap cylinder, prism, torus. If we go even bigger, we'll be able to see the torus better. We'll go 31. You know, it's kind of a torus is kind of the donut shape, cones, hearts, composition, scan, and back to box. So, you know, those are the typical shapes, but if you use this composer, you can combine shapes to get, you know, something more complex, and that way you can mess around with, you know, and get everything just the way you want it before you lay a single block. That way you don't have to worry about making mistakes. You know, you can design your structure. And if you notice, yeah, see, I got this coming up. And as far as the roofs go, you know, you can either put like a cone-shaped roof like I did on this one over here, or you can do the crenellations, you know, to have your, you know, the conventional, you know, crenelled tops. You can also, I could have also wrapped, you know, different layers like I did on this one over here. If you come over here, you notice that we got a little bit of shape at the bottom. See, and I did all of this with the builder. So the reason why I wanted to do this little mod spotlight video is because I feel like the builder is way underused. I use the builder quite a bit because in my playthroughs, I don't like having just a small house, you know, as a base, or even a large house as a base. You know, I like to have really big structures that I can put all of my different, you know, all of my different machine rooms and stuff into. And what I've found is when you're playing Minecraft, when you have a nice base to, you know, spend your time in, it makes for a more enjoyable experience when you're playing the game. So, but I don't, you know, if you're like me, I don't play Minecraft for 8 to 10 hours a day. It would literally take me a year, because I only play on the weekends, 3 or 4 hours at a time. You know, it would take me a year to add this into a playthrough. And I don't even know if I could, because, you know, these toruses, these donut shapes, like, I don't know if I could figure out how to build something like that by hand. But with the builder, I can literally build this entire structure in 1 3 or 4 hour session with time to spare. You know, I could probably, I put this together in about 20 minutes using the composer. Let me turn it to day again. I put this structure together in about 20 minutes with the composer, and I have this storage crate filled with materials. And if I flip this switch, it would build this structure in, I don't know, a couple minutes. Now, I've powered this the same way I would in a playthrough, you know, in a survival world. You know, I powered it with a big reactor and flux points, you know, just to make it similar to what it would be in an actual world. So in order to get started here, let's start with the basics so that everybody's on the same page on how to make things work. I've watched a lot of, you know, I learned how to use the builder by watching other Minecrafters, other YouTubers that were more experienced than I was and already knew how to use the builder. And one thing that I noticed is that most of them, even though they're really competent Minecrafters, they did the whole shift right. Oop, let's not do that. They did the whole shift right click thing. Is it control right click, or won't it? let me do it in creative. But anyway, they did the whole setting up the parameters by shift right clicking on the builder, and then and then on the starting corner and the finishing corner, they click here and then they run all the way over here and they dig all the way down to big bedrock. And there's really a lot easier way to set up your parameters when you're building or quarrying with the builder. If you look here, you have these three sets of numbers that you can move your box around with. So right now, I have it set up as that. If we look at the preview, it sets up the builder as the center point. And let's say we were doing a quarry in a playthrough in a survival world, we wouldn't necessarily want this to be our where we quarried. So all we would have to do is change it. So the easiest way to do that would be to just do, click this button here, and it puts the quarry, it's centered, it puts it on the edge of the builder and goes out in that direction. Or if we change it, we can go here. It does the same thing over there, and it'll dig down. It'll dig down 15 blocks. We could change that. If we look at our Y, our Y is, well, we're in this creative flat world. It's only four blocks deep. But let's say if we were in the mining world, it would be 70. We'd be at 75 if we were standing on top of the mining world. So we would just change this number to 75. And what I do in my survival worlds is I make it 100 by 100. And I usually go 76 blocks deep. One thing that you have to remember to do is turn this off, because it'll leave, if you leave this on and you change the position on your shape card at all, either by hitting this or by manually changing these numbers, it will it will leave this blue block pattern there. So you want to remember to turn that off. Okay, so let's say that we were running a quarry and we finished both this section and this section, because like I said, all you have to do is push this button and it'll put it there, and if you turn it off, push this button, it'll position it there. But what do you do next? Well, you could move your builder, but you don't have to. So if you want to change it again, then we have our dimensions set up at 31 by 50. So now we just have to add 31 to 15, and we get 46. So we go negative 46. And we just change one of those numbers, and it'll move it again. So now we have a continuation. A fresh new batch of land that we can quarry out, and it'll quarry way over there. So we don't have to go running around digging down to bedrock, or right clicking on corners. All you have to do is change the numbers on this bottom set in order to move your quarry. So what do these numbers represent? Well, this is your X, this is your Y, and this is your Z. But in order to understand it a little better, so that you can predict which direction things are going to move, instead of thinking of this as X, Y, and Z, I want you to think of it as east and west, up and down, and north and south. Okay, so if you change this number and if you subtract, from it, it'll always move your coordinates, your box south, right? If you add, it will always move your box north. If and the same thing goes here. If you subtract, it will always move your box west, and it will always move your box. If you add, it'll always move it east. So to demonstrate that, all we got to do is take this card out of here and put it in here. Now this box, this builder is facing east, right? But if I put this card in and turn that on, my quarry is still, it's almost in the exact same position. It's going to be one block different because, this builder is one block diagonally from this one. So it's the quarry, I'm sure it moved the quarry one block east and one block south, right? So that's just something to keep in mind. This is east and west, this is up and down, and this is north and south. All right, so the next step that we should do to, kind of science and learn the beginning basics about the builder, let's go ahead and build ourselves a simple house. Okay, so we're in a survival world, and we're too lazy to place the blocks ourselves. We want to use the builder. We decided we want to use the builder. So let's say we want it to be 15 by 9. We want ourselves a 15 by 9, and I don't know, is 5 blocks tall enough? Let's say we want it a little taller. Let's go 7 blocks tall, and we've got our builder plopped down here, and we want it centered on the builder but a few blocks that way, right? So the first thing we have to do is bring it up to ground level. So we divide this 7 by 2, so we'll bring it up 3 blocks because it originates at the center of the builder, and that includes the y coordinates. So we bring it up 3 blocks, and if we wanted it at the corner or at the edge of the builder, we would move it 15 blocks, but we want to move it a little bit further. So let's go ahead and move this to, let's say, 21 blocks. Oh, that's east and west. So I almost messed up. So we're going to leave it at 0 here. We want it centered on the builder, so let's go north 21 blocks. And we'll turn the rain off. I don't know what it is about Minecraft and its infatuation with rain, but it likes to rain a lot. Alright, so now let's take a look at where we ended up. Uh-oh. Oh, it went behind me. So I must have had that wrong. It must be negative 21. Oh, let's turn this off so that we don't get our ghost blue. We'll move it negative 21. So apparently north is negative, which is weird. You would think that north would be positive. All right. So there we go. Now we have our house sitting right in front of us, centered on the builder, but a little bit away. And all we got to do is flip our switch. Oh, I think I got to flip it twice. Not scanning. There we go. Wonder why it missed a couple blocks. Oh, I made it solid. Oh, so see, we made a mistake. So now Well, all we got to do, we made a mistake, we left it solid, and we wanted it hollow. So it's actually fortunate that we made the mistake. Now we can figure out how to repair our mistakes. So all we have to do is duplicate these numbers, and we'll leave it solid. So what were the numbers? The numbers are 15 by 7 by 9. So we go 15 by 7 by 9. And 0, 3, 21. Oops. So we go 0, 3, negative 21. And turn that on, and we can query it, and it'll take it back down. Nice. Now, I'm not exactly sure why it left some empty blocks. I've never had that happen before, so I can't explain that one. All right, so now we put this one back in, change this to hollow. It'll take 490 blocks. Yeah, look at that. It put the blocks all back perfectly. And it added corn for some reason. There must have been a piece of corn in there. Let's turn it back to day. And let's try it again. All right, so there we go. It builds us a little shape for a house, and we can punch through. And complete with the floor. Now, if we didn't want the floor, we could have just, made our house one block taller. We could have dropped it down one block to set it into the dirt so that we could replace our floor, because it won't replace a block that already exists. So now we're going to need a roof. So if I were in a survival world, what I would do is change the blocks, that are in the inside of the crate. But I'm not going to do that. So I'll take my shape card back out, and that's, I always recommend building more shape cards than what you think you might need. That way, at any time, we always have this shape card with the dimensions already set. So we're going to take a new shape card, we'll put it in there, and we'll change that to hollow, and we'll go with, we want the prism, so let's go back to prism, and we're going to change both these dimensions to 7. We want it 2 blocks bigger on each dimension, and we're going to make it a little bit taller. Let's go 9. Actually, with the prism, it's going to be preset, so it can, based on the X and the Y, it can only build certain height based on the X and the Y. So it looks like it's 1, 2, 3, 4 levels no matter what. All right, but now we have to change this to negative 21. It's going to be the same as what the house was, and we need to raise it up. We were 7 blocks high, so we want this to be, let's try 7 and see what that does for us. It's not even putting it in there. So let's go a little bit higher and see if that does anything. Let's go 9 blocks. Okay, so it's starting to come up, so we got to go even higher. Let's go 2 more blocks. Sometimes there's a little trial and error. And still got to go higher. Wait, let's look. Oh, it's 15 by 9. Oh, we got this way wrong. So let's fix that. We want to go 17 by 11. I don't know where I even came up with those original numbers. There, that looks better. There we go. Now we have a roof that... Alright, so we're going to drop it down 1. Because we want the... we want a little bit of an overhang. So let's drop it down. Turn this off. Drop it down by 1. Turn it back on. And there we go. We have a roof that sits on the house. Now, like I said, I would... If I were doing this in a playthrough, I would change the blocks so that the roof was a different color. But there you go, easy peasy. You know, we got ourselves a house. Now the builder isn't really efficient when you're building small structures, to be honest. I mean, in one way, because if you want randomized patterns, it can be kind of efficient just to use the builder. But you know, for the most part, with a builder's wand, you could build that structure probably faster because it's so simple with just using a builder's wand. But the larger the structure, the more beneficial a builder is when building any kind of structure. So I'm going to call it there for this video. In the next video, we'll start to get into the composer, how to use the composer to predetermine, you know, more complex shapes. You know, I thank you for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next episode.